Glen, General of the Great O Imperial Army. I am the Sunstone. My younger brother Cormag has been known to get a little hot-blooded.
If you played 3 houses but not Sacred Stones, then let's just say older brothers named Glen are not exactly the best off in the Fire Emblem franchise. Sacred Stone's Glen, with one N, is Cormag's brother and was one of the Great O's original 3 generals. In Fae, he's going to be a Sword Flier. For stats, Glen has 43 HP, 45 attack, 34 speed, 47 defense, and 20 resistance. He has a defense super boon, and that's going to let him tie for highest defense flyer in the game with Spring Michaelis. Besides great base attack and defense, Glen has some speed. His res is a bit low, but he doesn't completely abandon magical tanking altogether. Unfortunately for Kalik, he's the only Great O general to not get a unique weapon. Glen's gonna get the Sunstone's Blade. 16 might grants a flat +3 defense. For allies within 3 rows or 3 columns, Glen grants them +4 attack and defense in combat and heals them 10 HP after combat. If Glen initiates or has an ally within 3 rows or 3 columns, then he gets +5 total stats and inflicts attack and defense debuffs on the foe equal to 20% of his defense stat from start of combat. Glen then gets flat DR based on 15% of his defense in combat. He makes a free follow-up attack and will also heal 10 HP after fighting. Glen's going to be the latest Grau unit to have a hybrid support weapon. Similar to Gale's recent refine, Glen will use the Crux 3-row 3-column range. This lets him support from across the map. Instead of Crux's follow-up, Glen heals allies after combat, and I don't think many free-to-play units have this ability, not including skills. For his own combat, Glen can also start with 50 flat defense. That's pretty wild. His attack and defense debuffs scale with 20% flat defense, which means at 5 stars no other investment, Glen inflicts -10 attack and defense on the foe. If you can get to say 60 defense, then that's -12 debuffs. Glen will also get flat DR based on 15% defense from in combat, just like his brother. Let's just say he only has Sunstone's Blades +5 defense. 15% of 55 defense is 8 flat DR, not too bad. Glen will get some extra speed, but he has a free follow-up, which is appreciated. Like his support field, Glen will also heal 10 HP after he fights. All in all, not too shabby, +5 total stats, -10 attack and defense, and 8 or so flat DR with 10 HP sustain. Glen's not going down without a fight. For the rest of his base kit, Glen has Ignis as his special. Not going to be easy to proc, but it will do incredible burst damage. For his C-skill, Glen has Flyer Guidance 3. Flyer allies within 2 spaces can warp next to the user. This upgrades into Soaring Guidance, but I think Summer Ivy just left with her rerun. However, she is in the Divine Code's normal 5 shop if you did want that upgrade. Glen's last skill is Wyvern Flight 3. If you're within 10 speed of the enemy at start of combat, inflict attack and defense debuffs based on the difference between defense stats. Unfortunately, Wyvern Flight is not super reliable. Glen doesn't have the highest flat speed, and you need to meet that speed check first to get to the defense comparing part. A more serious option is the Tier 4 Wyvern Rift. We'll discuss that more in the build section. If you want to upgrade, Glen has Wyvern Flight 3 at 4 stars, Arian has it at 5. Overall, Glen's main standout trait is his weapon. His fodder is kind of rare though if you did need those skills. If you plan to merge up Glen, the neutral nature is going to give him +1 HP, attack and speed. If you take that defense super boon, you're going to get the extra +4 defense, and Glen does benefit from flat defense. If you're going to go the Wyvern Rift route, the extra speed might also be important. For free-to-play Sword Flier comparisons, we don't get too many new options. We have gotten a couple more since launch, but many of them are on the faster side, such as Fee or Thief Rickard. If you want a bulkier option, it's incredibly tough to pass up on Fallen Ashnard. He got his Refine, and it was pretty good. Ashnard has built-in IOT shield, so while Glen does have higher defense, Ashnard doesn't take free damage from arrows. Glen does get some decent all-around bulk, but Ashnard does just have 15 more res at full investment and some extra HP to tank with. In his similar vein, Ninja Har is on another pretty slow Sword Flier. His Wyvern Katana is a dual-phase brave sword, which is pretty neat. Har is a more defense-focused Ashnard, but obviously lacks a unique weapon. Glen has that mid-30 speed, which usually isn't the best, but his weapon grants +5 speed, and he can utilize it with a certain skill to prevent a follow-up. Ashnard has a follow-up denial, but Glen could try to stop enemy natural doubles by maybe twisting the rules. In terms of support, Ashnard's Gurgurant has a 4-space debuffing zone, pretty big but won't cross the entire map like Glen. It does have more effects though, like follow-up denial, guard, and low attack and defense. Glen has some great perks, but Ashnard definitely isn't getting replaced or anything. For general playstyle, Glen is a high attack and defense Sword Flier who does benefit from flat defense. His Sunstone's blade buffs and heals allies, and then for his own combat, Glen inflicts debuffs and gets flat DR. He isn't going to be the best magical tanker, but Glen doesn't abandon res completely. For damage, he gets a free follow-up, and after combat, he can heal 10 HP. If you want to stick with Wyvern Flier 3, you're going to need to win a flat speed check. You get a 10-point advantage, but Glen still really wants as much flat speed as possible. You can use Fury since Glen can offset the recoil damage. Squad Ace BV gives +3 speed and defense together. Speed field buffs can also help, so speed and defense oath is not bad. Speed debuffs work as well. For an A skill, Glen can use attack and defense clash 3 from Kyle or Young Freddy. Catch skills work too. For a fun interaction, you could get away with Double Fury. Glen will only take 2 recoil damage with Double Fury after combat, and you could use this for things like keeping up Desperation 3. I wonder if Glen has healing on his weapon because Volter has the recoil damage. That would be a neat contrast. Now, for one of the main skills you can run on Glen, you can try to upgrade to Wyvern Rift. The big difference is that it now does an in-combat speed plus defense check. This is way better than starting with flat speed only. You really want to boost Glen's speed and defense together or try to debuff the foe's speed and defense. Speed and defense Rain isn't a bad option for this, plus it potentially adds to Glen's support power. Now back to Wyvern Rift, assuming Glen meets the check, he can get 7 true damage and flat DR. He needs 42 flat defense for this to happen, which is pretty easy to do. He will get Omni Breaker as well. 2 free follow-ups will let him bypass 1 follow-up denial and still double even if outsped. Getting a follow-up denial is nice, but no follow-up kind of does ruin all the fun. For faster no follow-up users, Glen can try to stop their doubles since Wyvern Rift increases the foe's speed roll by +20. Glen is by no means super fast, but the enemy now needs 25 or more speed to double him naturally. Definitely not a drop in the bucket, although I would still focus on giving Glen more speed. Since Wyvern Rift is only on Rosado, you may as well also grab Earthwind Boost 3, potential guard when near allies with +5 HP, +7 speed and defense. One weakness for Glen will generally be cooldown. While he would love to proc no Quarter, Bonfire, or Ignis, it's going to take some time to charge up, and the only cooldown skill is Heavy Blade. Odd Defense Wave 4 can make things easier with its Tempo effect, and it also stacks with Glen's buffs for his allies. The Tempo effect also works nicely with Guard, such as from Earthwind Boost. If you want survivability, Glen could rock defensive specials. He does want to combo %DR with his weapon's flat DR. Escuchian or Pavis would be nice, although cooldown is still an issue here. If you want to risk it, Gambit or Guard Bearing 4 are fine B skill %DR options. There is also Guard 4 or Brash Assault 4. For some other skills, Clash and Catch stat boosters are fine. Excel could stack some flat DR. Impact skills can give Fault Denial, although they're player phase only. If you do want to be aggressive, Rain Snap's extra movement is fun, or you could use flyer mobility skills like Flyer Formation or even aerial maneuvers. For safety, I will once again mention Flow Guard 4. Scowl is just too useful, although without say Wyvern Rift's increased speed roll, Glen may just get doubled and hit by special anyway. For other C skills, if you want to use Wyvern Rift or Flight, I would really consider Speed and Defense Oath. Sadly, there's no tier 4, which would be a lot easier to use. If you want to use Glen for healing, you could double down Breath of Life 4. Kinda might be overkill, but Breath of Life also reduces Fatal Smoke's effects, so you can heal at least 50% of the original amount. Unfortunately, that effect only works in combat. This means it doesn't help Sunstone Blades 10 HP after combat heal if Fatal Smoke applies deep wounds. Now, for another healing option, Mystic Boost isn't too bad. It does counteract adaptive damage as well, which could be useful. For attuned skills, Guard Echo is solid, and Attack Echo gives some warping. But if you want to warp flyers and infantry around, then Soaring Echo is so strong. With Emblem Celica's Ring though, you may need to watch out for more warp bubble usage. So, should you 5-star Glen? We don't have too many free-to-play Sword Fliers and only 2 of them are on the slower side. Glen's a bit in the middle though, since he has some speed for things like Wyvern Rift, but isn't a super speed demon. His high base defense ties for best among all flyers, and he has solid base attack as well. Glen's Sunstone Blade is pretty decent. It has a good amount of stats via debuffs and flat DR scaling off of Glen's defense. He gets a free follow-up and heals a hefty 10 HP after every fight. Glen can also share this healing with his team in a large area, and they get a bonus +4 attack and defense as well. Healing support from a free-to-play weapon is pretty unique, and the extended range is easy to work with. Just don't run Glen with low HP skills. In terms of fodder, Wyvern Flight 3 and Flyer Guidance 3 are technically somewhat rare, being on one other heroic rail unit each. If you want their tier 4 upgrades, Glen can be a nice in-between. Overall, Glen can serve as a typical physical damage brawler, but he can also be your team's part-time healer. Stat-wise, there aren't really any other Sword Fliers like Glen, and in recent times we've gotten a pretty few impactful skills that use defense for comparisons. You could argue his middling speed can be wasteful, but if you can get skills like Wyvern Rift or he rates Frozen status, then Glen can use his high defense to enhance that middling speed. Similar to Kyle from the banner and many other low 30 speed units with high defense, if we ever get Frozen in some other capacity, then things could get pretty spicy. For the moment, I wouldn't say Glen's going to be super insane, but he does offer a nice mixed bag of effects. You have some options on how to use him, and Sunstone's blade doesn't completely abandon speed or res. In conclusion, I think it'll be a fun merge project, and at the rate we get free-to-play Sword Fliers, it's pretty dang low, so perhaps not a lot of future competition. Personally, I'm just happy he's not a Lance Flyer because I have way too many Blue Sacred Stones merge projects. I finally completed Vanessa, so maybe it's time to plus tie in Glen. Can't say I'm disappointed with how he turned out. We still got some time to wait, but I have been getting pretty antsy for the refines for the other Grado Generals. I have so many duels I want to merge up and finally build. That's all I got to say for this video. Good luck beating Glen and his Grand Hero battle. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.